Speaking of good, actually, it was a terrible segue. What did we watch that was any good today? Shawn Michaels Honey Show. I don't get it. I mean, I get it. I guess I get it.
I don't get it.
It's a show on the Outdoor Channel. What is there to get? We saw a 6-minute soliloquy about the Second Amendment.
By a dead man.
By a man who is no longer with us.
Yeah.
That was something else, dude.
It's not... It's not even so much that it was on the show, although that was bewildering, the actual the speech itself, but there was no connection to anything else going on in the program. They never said, here is a clip, and showed it, or they said, wow, those are some amazing words. It was like it was a commercial, but it went so goddamn long, it had to be part of the show.
I thought it was some sort of infomercial. Maybe it was. I don't know if it... I mean, there was a watermark for the show on there, so presumably it was part of the show.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to talk about the Second Amendment. I don't want to talk politics on this show. But I will say, after listening to the 6-minute soliloquy about the Second Amendment, I was ready to have it abolished.
Just because this guy had gone on so long.
Exactly.
And if he had been against the Second Amendment, you would be for it.
Exactly.
So you could shoot him.
I could not believe this soliloquy. What do I like in this world? Jiu-jitsu? If I would have heard a 6-minute soliloquy like this, it's not just it was like a soliloquy about why we should have the right to bear arms. He was talking about, oh my God.
He just started listing random Americans.
He started listing
random... talk about this right now. Let's just get into it. All right. Yes.
It's Charlton Heston.
MacMillan River Adventures is the name of the show. The co-host of this show, by the way, I didn't realize this last week, but the co-host is named Keith Mark.
That's the name, not Marks.
Mark.
Keith Mark.
Great name.
I never trust a guy who's got two first names. I've said this many times. Keith Mark. especially when he went to school and they saw his name and they presumed it was wrong, and so he was always called Mark Keith.
Could be.
Guaranteed. In school, every year at the beginning of the year, when the teacher was looking at the thing and she saw Mark, Keith, she thought, Mark, Keith? They must mean Mark Keith. They got it wrong. His name can't be Keith Mark. It's got to be Mark Keith. So she called him Mark Keith, and then he said, no, it's Keith Mark. And after about 3 years of this, he just said, fuck it. My name's Mark Keith. That's how things happen, Vinny. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I had a friend like that in school. I can't remember his name, but it was something like Keith Mark.
So...
This is going to drive me crazy for a full hour.
Shawn...
Not being able to remember this goddamn guy's name. God damn it.
Shawn opened the show with his own monologue. Maybe I shouldn't get into it. This is a very political show.
Yeah. We don't want to talk politics here. This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. He could have been arguing the 94th Amendment. Do we have 94 amendments? Regardless.
That is proof there is no politics on the show. So he explained... I will say that he explained that it was up to each and every one of us to defend and protect those liberties granted to us by the Constitution. He then explained he was going to do this by spending a day at the target range shooting pistols. Mm-hmm. So he shot up a heart. Not making this up. Started talking about his dad's quarter century in the Air Force. They showed him visiting troops in hellholes like Iraq and Afghanistan and Texas. Hunter was in there talking about how great it was. And then Shawn Michaels fired a mortar.
I remember who it was.
Did not see that coming.
I remember who it was. We'll talk about the mortar here in a second. I used to coach gymnastics, and I had a kid on my team named McCain Lee.
McCain
Lee.
McKinley?
So, McCain Lee. So, of course, everyone always called him Lee McCain, because they figured it had to be a typo. How could his first name be McCain and his last name be Lee? It was preposterous. So
that's a great story.
They proceeded to call him Lee McCain at every single meet.
Did he win?
Hey, he's all right.
All right,
go on. Actually, you know what? Swear to God. I coached him in gymnastics, and after his gymnastics career was over, I coached him for years. And he went on to, I believe, the University of Washington. And he went into pole vaulting, believe it or not. And he became a national champion in the pole vault.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank God he got out from under your guidance.
Well, it was because of me that he was a great pole vaulter.
How much pole vaulting did you teach him? What do you teach this young man about poles?
You jump up in the air, you do flips. How dare you? How dare you, Vinny? If Glad hears that...
the classic to defend pedophilia?
Gonna be disastrous is what it's gonna be. Go on.
Shawn Michaels fired a mortar. An actual live shell. They put this into his hands and had him fire it out of a tube. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, nobody died. So, Keith Mark explained that at the Mark household, that's what he said, at the Mark household, the 4th of July was a big party, and they shot up some fireworks and played some music.
Keep in mind, this was not taped yesterday.
No.
They made up the 4th of July for this show.
Yeah. So, they went hunting at the Christmas Ranch in New Mexico. They did a wacky skit with Shawn. They tried to do a promo for the show, and Shawn kept saying his own name, and Keith Mark kept pretending to be various WWE guys. They shot their rifles in the range. Shawn, at the firing range, was wearing his blue jeans tucked into his hiking boots.
I can't even believe you've blown off this whole gimmick of Keith Mark pretending he was a different WWE star every time they did a take.
All right, go on.
Well, you see, every time they did a take, he pretended he was someone else.
I could have sworn I pointed this out.
Yeah, it's funny.
And then at the end, Shawn got tired of it because he wanted to get it over with and go hunting, and so he chased the guy and put him in a headlock.
He chased him and put him in a headlock. See, this was one of those things, everybody, that if we're involving anybody else in the world, it would have been really bad, but because it involved Shawn Michaels, it was funny.
Okay, I'll admit that. Shawn made it better than anyone else would have. Sure.
You were drinking in the middle of my explanation right there?
I was chugging back some straight water.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you see, everybody, Shawn Michaels, the whole gimmick of this was that this Keith Mark, he kept saying he was a different WWE star, and it made Shawn more angry every time. Because Shawn is the epitome of professionalism.
Mm-hmm. Like me.
That's what made it so funny.
So they were on this ranch. They went, quote, hunting, which is really,
Let me tell you about this hunting on this show.
This is not the same as killing a moose in the Alaskan wilderness.
They were in like a game farm.
Yes.
There was fences all over the place, and there were these animals, and all I can tell you is that there was a shot of Shawn Michaels, Keith Mark, and a third fellow, who I guess we'll just call McCain Lee, and they were all bearing arms per the Second Amendment, and they were all stalking this white-tailed deer.
Or pronghorn.
Whatever it was. And they were going to shoot it. 3 armed grown men against 1 unarmed deer.
That was fenced in.
That was in a fenced enclosure.
Yes.
What am I watching?
And Shawn was talking about how...
Do hunters enjoy this show?
He turned to the camera and said, we've been stalking this animal for, I don't know, a half mile. This was, yeah. Listen.
I have cats, and I could put Snorky in the garage, and the hunt is on. She's looking for spiders.
Put a moth in there.
She's looking for bugs.
Uh-huh.
You know, she's like going after this animal. She's jumping through boxes and over WWE themed chairs and other shit that people have sent me in my lifetime. And meanwhile, Shawn Michaels, Keith Mark, McCain Lee, all decked out with rocket launchers and everything else are hunting
mortar.
1 fucking deer in a fenced enclosure. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, as hunting goes, this is not the most impressive thing I ever saw. So, the show had been interrupted periodically by clips of Charlton Heston. We talked about this. They were just in there without any relevance to anything else in the show. They were not introduced. They were not spoken of. Otherwise, there was nothing to indicate they were part of the show except for the watermark Bryan mentioned. And, oh, by the way, Charlton Heston has in fact been dead for years. So, he started talking about the Second Amendment and how important it was. He started listing people who used guns. He talked for a long-ass time. He listed one of the people in our lives as this is a quote. This is Charlton Heston saying this, everyone. The principal whose handmade paddle was somehow comforting.
That's what he said.
Because it meant punishment was certain, but so was forgiveness.
Because you got fucking...
Holy shit!
You got beaten. You
That
got
was
beaten on
unsettling.
by your teachers. You know what pissed me off about this? This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. This doesn't even have to do with politics why this pissed me off. Pissed me off because Charlton Heston went on and on and
Yes, it went for 6 minutes.
on. That's the main thing. But he was like trying to tie in the Second Amendment to like, I don't know, history. And,
He was rambling.
Saying, this is the thing that pissed me off, because Granny does this too, and God bless Granny, but listen, things were not fucking better back in the day, okay? Yes, wrestling was, but other than that, okay? When he was on there just talking about, when Mom made apple pie and fucking Beaver Cleaver went to school and he never caused any trouble and all this just pure bullshit. For Christ's sake, does anyone read history? Does anybody read fucking history? Because I do! And shit was not better back in the day. Good God almighty. On and on, he preached and preached and preached. I was most upset
that he was not making anything resembling a coherent point, even if it was bullshit.
He was trying to explain that back in the day,
I could have tolerated it.
Back in the day when you beat the shit out of kids in school with a fucking paddle, things were better then. That's what he was trying to fucking say.
He was going on and on about the tapestry of our lives and the threads that tie us all together. What does this have to do with guns?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
This offended me.
So he talked for 6 minutes. We had to go back.
6 minutes.
We had to restart this like 3 times because we just couldn't believe what was happening. And then after this, they went back to commercial. And the commercial was for a knife that claimed it could, quote, open game like a zipper.
It said open game like a zipper.
Which is the second lewd and unsettling comment here.
If Charlton Heston went on and on for 6 minutes about UFC, I would command it be banned.
Yes.
That's how I felt after this guy went on and on. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
So Shawn wanted to kill his animal. His buddy Keith Mark had already gotten one. The buck he wanted was in a herd that was far away, and there's another herd in between them, and they weren't sure how to do it without spooking the animals. Somebody cursed. It was bleeped. Surely not Shawn, the God-fearing Christian.
Of course not.
And then clearly Keith Mark said, "What a clusterfuck."
And then the conclusion, everybody, just to cut to the chase here. And if you don't want to ever listen to one of these again, this is all you have to know about it. In the end, Shawn shot an animal.
Yes. This is what's going to happen on every show.
That's what the show builds up to every time.
I just like that he said he was trying to lay on the line about what was at stake here. He said, if I don't get my kill, that's what he said, my kill, I would go home empty-handed to my wife and kids.
Yeah.
And also, and this is almost exactly what he said, he would give Keith bragging rights.
And God knows, if he went home empty-handed to his wife and children,
they would all starve and die.
They'd go hungry.
They would starve and die. So
Whitney
Shawn
laughed uproariously when he said that.
Shawn killed his animal, and they put a picture of him smiling with it and played some Kings of Leon music, and the show ended. This is the weirdest show ever.
This is a monstrously strange show, and it's not getting nearly enough out of Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels on a hunting show should be like the best thing of all time. But for some reason, there's all of this other wacky bullshit on it. I just want to see Shawn out being wacky and putting Keith Mark in a headlock and chasing him. And whatever. I don't know. I'm going to watch this show every week.
Are you now?
Well, yeah, because there's going to be an episode with Michael Cole. This I got to see. There's going to be an episode with Triple H.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, I find that even harder to believe.
He's trying to talk Hunter into being a hunter. Yeah.
Okay, that's comedy gold right there. That one I can't wait for.
Yeah. So there will be some gold on this show. Although, goddamn, I don't need to see Charlton Heston ranting and raving again for 6 straight minutes. And that's no joke, everybody. That's no joke. You know, when I read The Observer and it talked about because Dave times everything, which is kind of funny because in all the time I've known Dave, I've never seen him with a stopwatch. Yet he always has the time.
Oh, it's in his head.
I think it may be.
Actually, yes, he's a savant.
But regardless, he is a savant. But he's always, he's got the time for everything. And he noted that the Punk speech was 6 minutes. And to me, it was like, God damn, that was a lot longer. It felt like 10 minutes that he was out there ranting and raving before they cut his mic. It was only 6 minutes long. But this Charlton Heston speech was 6 minutes long. 6 minutes, everybody. That's a long-ass time. That is a long-ass time.
Especially when you don't have a point.
He had something about we should bear arms.
He made it poorly.
Yeah. So anyway, Yeah, that was the MacMillan River Adventures. Which I don't know what MacMillan River has to do with anything. Wasn't it in the first show?
Theoretically, they would be the sponsor, but their name's never mentioned anywhere except the title. It's not like he ever used MacMillan gear or anything.
Oh, is there a MacMillan gear?
I guess.
You work for a hunting magazine. Have you ever heard
Yeah, I went out of business.
Have you ever heard of MacMillan River Adventures before?
I will look it up. No, it does not ring a bell.
Because they're not on the MacMillan River for every show, folks.
They're not even in the same state. There's a MacMillan River Outfitters.
It should be called Shawn Michaels Yukon Adventures.
That would be better.
That would be a great name for this program.
There is a MacMillan River in the Yukon, so maybe they just named it after their first episode.
I don't know why they didn't consult me before naming this program.
I don't either.
They need to do that next time.